you are the guru of getting shit done.
I used to have cups of tea in my room. They would grow their own life form.
One of the things that people find when they habit stack so often is that they're always overwhelmed.
It's better if you're doing it because you want to leave more time to rest afterwards. When it becomes a big problem is if you're not allowing yourself that time to rest.
The more time you take out to reflect, to refine, to do things better, the better we will be with productivity. Gen Z have a very strong reputation for being the lazy generation.
Millennials could learn from Gen Z. They have probably got a better balance than millennials do.
So often when we portray that we're perfect, it can be really suffocating. How do you get rid of perfectionism?
And I just call it half-assing. I will half-ass clean the bits that they're going to see, because life isn't really about cleaning, is it? If you do this for this long, then you get to do this.
Life is so sad if you can't even take 2 minutes to yourself. So now do I have to earn every relaxing moment in my life? Are you struggling with procrastination or feeling lazy and can't seem to stay on top of anything? Well, this episode is your permission to stop aiming for perfect and just start. My guest today is Roo Day, one of the UK's fastest growing content creators, known for her hilarious, relatable approach to getting shit done, even when you really don't feel like it. With over 1.8 million followers and a brand new book, Getting Shit Done, Roo's mastered the art of turning chaos into momentum using humor, habit stacking, and a no-pressure approach to productivity. So if you're tired of overthinking and just want small, practical ways to feel on top of life, then this episode is for you. But before we get into this episode, I have a tiny little favor to ask each and every single one of you, and that's to press the follow, like, and subscribe button wherever you're watching this podcast, because it helps me get incredible guests like Roo on today. So let's get into this episode. Roo, welcome to Millennial Mind.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited for this conversation. I feel as if I really need to get a lot of shit done right now.
Yeah.
So you are the person, you are the guru of getting shit done. Now, you said that getting shit done is for the people who can't be helped. Where did that come from?
Do you know what? It's so weird that you would pick that bite out, because that is one of the very first things I wrote before I even wrote anything else in the book.
Really?
I was really thinking about who do I want to actually write a book for? And it was kind of the people who may have dipped their toes into self-help or tried to look for advice and just thought, do you know what? This is too much for me. It's too overwhelming. It's too intense. And so I wanted to write a book for people who don't necessarily want to just completely change their personality, but more so people who just want to be a little bit better or find tips to be a little bit better some of the time.
Right. Okay, talk to me about that. So I guess you're right. It is so overwhelming when you read a book and it tells you to do hundreds of different things, right?
Yeah.
You know, you must do this in the morning, this in the afternoon. I'm seeing people now doing these mental morning routines. And I actually spoke about sleep tape because I was just on holiday and I fell asleep in the car, I fell asleep on the beach, I fell asleep on the train, I fall asleep everywhere, by the way. I'm so tired these days.
Yeah.
And I always sleep with my mouth open. And I actually really like it. In the evenings, I don't. I sleep with my mouth closed, I'm pretty sure, when I'm sleeping. But I actually quite like sleeping with my mouth open. And I said, I'm just sick of people talking to me about mouth tape. I don't care.
I'm sure they call it catching flies for a reason.
Yeah.
Surely it's good for you. That means you're in a good sleep if your mouth's open and you're
Right.
I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, but I guess it's really overwhelming right now. So what are some of those small things that people can start doing that you're talking about?
So, one of my favorite things to do is to just find ways to add new habits to habits that you've already formed. I feel like everyone always has certain things that you do every single day. So some of mine are when I'm in the shower, instead of disassociating and just standing there in the shower, I literally will clean my shower while I'm in it. Do you know what I mean? I might be mentally planning my day, but I always bring my little dish wand in the shower and I'll just give it a little scrub for that minute or even 30 seconds where you would normally just stand there and you'd get in the water and you would just disassociate for a second.
Right.
And then other things when I do my skincare, I always just wipe down the bathroom quickly after, pretty much every day. Some days I just can't be asked, but most days I'll just be I'll give it a really, really quick wipe down.
Yeah.
And then I find that when I come to clean my bathroom, deep clean it, however often that is, I wish I could say I deep clean weekly, but I don't. But it just means that it's a lot more manageable because I've just been doing it very, very quickly as often as I can.
Yeah, no, I mean, actually, when I brush my teeth, I sometimes wipe down the surfaces
Yeah.
because they're sometimes so dirty. I'm just like, oh, let me quickly wipe them, and then I'll do the sink, and
Yeah.
it kind of just happens like that.
Yeah.
But one of the things that people find when they habit stack so often is that they're always overwhelmed, because then when you don't do something, so for example, if you go for a shower and you do just stare into space,
Yeah.
you're not giving yourself that time to be creative, number one. But two, you then start to feel a lot of guilt and shame for not habit stacking and being productive all the time.
Yeah. So I feel like it is more for people who aren't going to become overwhelmed if they're, or feel bad if they don't feel like they habit stacked perfectly or they didn't slot their day so perfectly and got everything done. I feel like it's better if you're doing it because you want to leave more time to rest afterwards.
Right.
So I like to get things done quickly to leave maximum time to just rot. I love to just sit there and like rot in my bed and read my book. So I'm like, if I can get everything that's really boring done really, really quickly,
Right.
that is going to leave the maximum amount of time for me to actually rest.
Yeah.
I feel like when it becomes a big problem is if you're not allowing yourself that time to rest and you're only being
it.
productive and like your day is just like jam packed with habit stacking the whole day.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I think you need to introduce it in tiny, tiny increments to allow yourself that time to actually rest when you're not being productive, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Well, rest is productive, but
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point, because so often we try and save time on the tasks that we do. But what are you using that time to do? Is it more stuff, or are you using it to actually rest? So I think that's a really good point.
yeah.
Talking about rest, Gen Z have a very strong reputation, I would say, for being the lazy generation. What are your thoughts on that?
I love that for them. I literally love that for them because as I said, I think rest is productive. I think being lazy is productive, especially if you've spent time sort of going at 100 miles per hour, if you've been getting things done or doing what millennials often perceive as being productive, which is like doing something that has like a tangible outcome that you're like, great, I did that and that happened. But I don't feel like for it to be productive, you have to have an outcome to show for it. I think just resting and taking time to reset is really, really productive and really, really good for you. So I do feel like millennials could learn from Gen Z in that they are taking it a lot more seriously. Sometimes I look at their self-care routines and I'm like, you're taking it a bit too far.
Yeah.
But
No, you're
but
right.
I think that they have probably got a better balance than millennials do.
There's a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And one of the chapters is Sharpen the Saw. And it's a tale of two people. And they both set out in the day and chop wood. Now, one of them continues to chop wood whilst the other one goes away and sharpens his saw. And then he comes back. So he's taken an hour out to go and sharpen his saw. When he comes back and he keeps on chopping his wood, at the end of the day, he's the one that's actually chopped more wood. And it's because he's taken that time to sharpen his saw. And we can apply that to our lives. The more time you take out to reflect, to refine, to do things better, and gives you more energy, because time gives you more energy. So the more time we take to sit, to think, to rest, the better we will be with productivity. And that's what I think people have got wrong, is that we just think if we keep on going, we will be more productive. But actually, if you rest, you will actually end up being even more productive.
Yeah. Love that. I wish I'd written that in my book.
Yeah. No, it's such a great story. It always reminds me to not feel guilty, because I think a lot of people do. I kind of want to go back to 10 years ago. Were you always this way? Were you always somebody who got loads of stuff done, always habit stacking, always very efficient? Because I kind of get that vibe from you right now.
That you think I'm like non-stop efficient?
Yeah.
No. So 10 years ago, I would have been 20. So at uni, that was maybe like my turning point of starting to get a little bit more on my shit. But honestly, if you go back to me being a teenager, I used to have like cups of tea in my room that would have like a little bit left and then they would grow their own life form. Like they would go so moldy. I would have what I would call a floordrobe, where like my clothes would be all over the floor. I had the messiest room. I didn't really like grow up in a house where it was like always instilled in me to be clean and stuff like that. So that was more something that I learned when I went to uni. I had a really, really cute room. I did my room up like really, really cute. Like I'm really into just like pink and girly things.
Yeah.
So I think when I then like made my space really cute and like my own, I was like, oh, I really, really like the feeling after when you've just like cleaned it all, decluttered it all. And I was like, oh, this feels really, really good to be in this room like this. But I still would always fall back into my old ways of kind of like making a mess. I'm not that natural person who is like, don't put it down, put it away. I'm not naturally wired to be like that. Like I'm actively trying all the time. And
Right.
even now still, like I let my house get into a mess. But for me, the feeling of it being tidy is enough to like motivate me to want to get back on top of it. So I'm not a naturally tidy person. I'm not someone who is just like naturally always cleaning as I go. It's something that I've had to really, really teach myself, and constantly now, even still, like checking myself all the time to be like, no, like you should probably just clean that up. It'll take you 2 seconds. Like it's something I have to remind myself all the time.
I wouldn't say I'm a naturally tidy person either. I'm actually quite messy. And Nikhil, my partner, we watched Bridget Jones the other day, the new one. Have you seen it?
No, I need to see it.
Don't watch it. It's so, especially if you're pregnant. I cried hysterically the whole time.
Okay.
It's so sad.
It's sad.
It's
What?
amazing, but like it's sad. I won't ruin it for you, but I did find it very emotional. But it was the first time that he'd been introduced to Bridget Jones. So strange. I love Bridget Jones. And he midway was like, you're a bit like Bridget. And it's
I
so
am so much
interesting.
like Bridget.
I don't think people know that about me. People always think I'm so well put together. And I always say, if you see me 10 minutes before you see me on this podcast, you would laugh so hard. I have rollers in my hair. I'm like downing like a drink before I get here. Half of it's on my top. I always have to wear a different jumper to what I wear on the podcast. I'm always in different outfits because I ruin all my outfits. And I'm just naturally messy. When I leave the house, he always says to me, you've left the house in a tornado. And I always say I can't help it. I don't know why. I don't know why that happens when I'm getting ready. Even if I have my outfit planned, the house is still for some reason a mess. And there is nothing more satisfying, by the way, than cleaning it up. I do feel when I sit down to work, my desk will be clean. Midway through the day, there'll be a cup of tea, there'll be biscuits, there'll be my diary, there'll be something open, there'll be like 20,000 notes of scribble paper, happens every single day. Everything's all everywhere. But at the end of the day, I do put it back and clean it up and I do feel really good. But how does somebody who's sitting at home right now, who feels really overwhelmed by that and says, okay, I'm the same as you. I'm very messy. I want to be clean. But every time I try and do it, I just feel overwhelmed. And now it's got to the stage where it's so bad.
So I feel like with cleaning, unfortunately, just the sad fact of it is you're never going to be completely done. Do you know what I mean? You're never
Yeah.
going to be completely finished with it. So the second that you accept that you're not going to be able to have everything all clean all together at the same time, I feel like you can start to just relax a little bit and think, okay, let me just focus on this one area that's really, really causing me like my mind to feel really chaotic right now and clean up this area. And it's fine if you've got another room that you've had to shut the door on, or if you've got
Yeah.
someone coming around, like just focus on the bits that that person's going to see and feel proud of yourself for being on top of those bits without feeling overwhelmed with all of the other things that
true.
you feel like you haven't been able to get on top of. Because I just think in order to be on top of your whole entire house all the time, you would have to be just constantly doing it. So I think that people need to just take a second and just be like, no, I'm really proud of myself that I've managed to keep this little area clean. Tomorrow I might go and tackle that bit, but like we all live in our houses, so
Yeah.
like they're going to get messy again, and you're going to finish cleaning it and it's going to look absolutely gorgeous and it's going to be the most stunning thing you've ever seen, but unfortunately in a week's time it's going to need doing again.
It's really interesting because when you're speaking, I'm listening to you thinking you just have got rid of perfectionism. And I know a lot of people who are watching and listening to this say, but when people come round, I hate being that person whose house is messy. Or I always want to make sure everything is perfect at home because I know that's how my partner likes it. Or I know that my mum's coming round and she's going to make a comment at me. How do you get rid of perfectionism?
I feel like I kind of just cheat, right? I have this thing and I just call it half-arsing. And I would just like think, okay, someone's coming round. Let me think, which parts are they going to see? They're probably going to see the bathroom. There's,
Right.
I'm like, I'm going to clean the bathroom up. I like
Yeah.
basically I will half-ass clean the bits that they're going to see. And like, so that to the untrained eye, they're going to come over and they're going to think this looks fine. And do you know what? Like, that's good enough for me. I can come back for the deep cleaning
Yeah.
another time. But I feel like by allowing myself to half-ass things, I end up getting more done because I leave more time for the real deep cleaning and the more like intense jobs after, by just very, very roughly going over things and just basically accepting that I don't have to do everything perfectly right now, because sometimes I'm like, I don't want to start cleaning because I don't have time to really get down and do every single little thing. So I think it is
Right.
fine to just kind of make everything look fine on the surface, enough
Yeah.
for you to be able to see clearly, enough for you to like have someone come into your home. By the way, I feel like if anyone's coming into your home and they're like, oh, it's a mess in here, I just don't like people who would make those comments anyway. But at the
Right.
same time, I do completely understand not wanting people to come in your home and think, oh my God, it looks really lived in here. My boyfriend's girlfriend, my boyfriend's sister made a comment once that just stayed with me forever. She popped
Really?
in like unannounced, or like very quickly. I didn't know she would be coming, and she needed to use the toilet, and she was like, "Oh, it's very lived in here, very lived in." And I bring it up in my videos all the time, and me and her, we joke about it. It's like a running joke between us. But ever
Yeah.
since then, I think ever since that comment is when I started wiping my bathroom down every single day. So I'm like never caught short, and no one is ever like, "Oh, it's very lived in here."
I've never heard that phrase. Gosh, that would have really set me off if someone said that. I would now be constantly cleaning. And I think that's something I also really want to talk about is a lot of people have a lot of fear and anxiety for when people come over because they're chasing this perfect life. And so how do we avoid that when people want to come over? How did you overcome that kind of fear and anxiety?
I mean, I don't know if I'm fully placed to speak on it because I still do really clean my house and erase all evidence of human life before people are coming over.
Yeah.
But to me, I kind of use it more as a motivator because there's not many things that will kick my ass into gear quite like somebody coming over. So I
Right.
quite like having an unannounced visitor because I just feel like I will be going at super speed and I'll probably get way more done than what I would
Yeah.
get done if I didn't have that motivation.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do think that like people should just be accepting. Obviously, if you come over, I'm sure like when I have my baby, I'm gonna let that go. And if anybody wants to make a comment about the state of my house when I've got a kid in it,
Right.
you're never coming around again.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that, talking about motherhood and how challenging it can be, it's really difficult sometimes to get your shit done. And what I don't want people to take away from this conversation is that it's an easy thing. So, what advice are you going to be taking on as a new mum? And what advice do you have for other mums out there who are struggling to get their shit done?
I really want to try and take on board my kind of own methods and advice of having habit stacking as much as I can. I'm actually really, really excited to see what else presents itself to me because I know there's going to be little things that come up that
Yeah.
I currently don't have. Like if I have like a bottle sterilizer, I'm going to be like, what can I get done in the time that the bottles are sterilizing? Probably
Mm.
nothing. My baby's going to be crying and need
Yeah.
feeding. But I'm very, very interested to see how that changes for me. I think it's like good that I already have this mentality that I'm okay with things not being perfect all the time. Because I
Mm.
think when you're a mum, you have to have that mentality because at the end of the day, the most important thing is your child and making sure that your child is cared for
Yeah.
over making sure that your house is cared for and in
Mm.
tip-top condition. But I follow so many like really, really great mum creators and mum cleaning creators. So I'm gonna be taking notes on
I
all of
love
their
that.
videos with how they do it. But what I really, really want to like make sure that my content is when I'm a mum, and as I always make sure that it is now, is that it is as realistic as possible. So I'm usually on a timer when I clean anyway, so I'm dragging the tripod along. But if the baby starts crying, then that will be part of my content. I'll be like, do you know what? I tried to clean today and I
Yeah.
actually couldn't get it done because my child needed me. So I just want to make sure that I'm always putting out what is realistic for me with my content. And I know that like what's realistic for me might not reflect everybody because everybody is completely different. Everybody has a completely different house, a different amount of kids, pets, or whatever.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure that what I'm putting out there is just exactly what was real and what I was able to manage.
Have you always had that mentality of I'm okay with everything not being done?
I think when I first started making cleaning videos, I no, like I wouldn't leave a video until every single part of my flat was clean, right? And the same with, well, I started filming cleaning videos because that was how I was with my cleaning before. So even before I started making any content,
Mm.
I would make sure every single part of it was pristine. Whereas more recently, I'm kind of like, do you know what? Cleaning for 3 hours straight is that's just too much for me.
Yeah.
I find it to be exhausting.
Yeah.
So I've just really, really like over the years of making cleaning content and just cleaning my own house, have just learned to really accept when it's not perfect and just being happy with what I was able to achieve.
How did
Um,
you do that? Because I presume if you were doing that initially with the 3 hour content and then cutting that down, how were you able to shift that perspective within yourself?
I think it helped the more I started to show my personality on the internet. Because before, when I started, I had like a faceless, voiceless account. I literally would just make
Okay.
quite aesthetic, quite perfect looking videos to music. And I would cut it to the music and make it look really nice.
Mm.
But somewhere along the way, I did start doing voiceovers. And I would just be like, I think my first voiceover was like day in the life life where my boyfriend's like really hungover. And it was just like a really, really accurate snapshot of what a regular day in my life would be like. And he'd left his clothes on a pile on the floor and I was like jumping over them all day, refusing to pick them up all day. And that voiceover did really, really well. And I was like, wow, people really like it when you actually just show the reality. So I think the more that I've been able to share with the internet that like, oh, do you know what? I just like couldn't be bothered to get onto that bit, or I don't know, I just was sharing more how I was actually feeling about the cleaning has enabled me to be more like, do you know what? No, I'll do what I feel like I'm able to do. Some days am so motivated and I feel like I can clean for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And some days I just feel like I don't have it in me today. So I'm going to half-ass. I'm going to do the bare minimum that I think I need to do to just have a clear head and think straight. And I'll come back onto it another time.
I think what's really interesting about what you've just said is so often when we portray that we're perfect, we're actually not. And it can be really suffocating. And when you move away from that, because people know that you're now finally being authentic and true, they resonate with that so much more, because I presume 90% of people who are watching your content when it was all perfect and synced to the music found it aspirational, but they couldn't find it relatable.
Yeah.
And so often when people find things relatable, they engage with it so much more.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you see so many creators grow the more authentic that they are. So I think that's such a great lesson. What are your thoughts between physical clutter and mental clutter? Because I know a lot of people who say, I'm not able to do something if things are already messy. You know, I need a clean space to work or to be creative. What are your thoughts on that?
I do get that. I do 100% get that. It's like if you sometimes will like clean your car and like declutter your car, take everything out, suddenly I can literally drive better. Like I can
Right.
see the road better. I feel
Right.
like I do feel like decluttering your space and having a clear space does really, really help you think clearly. And that's something that I also do use to motivate me to like clean and keep on top of things and declutter all the time. So I do agree with that to an extent, especially if you're trying to be creative or you're trying to do something that you really do need your mind to be clear. I also think the act of physically cleaning it helps you to clear your
Yeah.
mind as well. Sometimes when I'm just feeling so overwhelmed and everything is like chaotic, that is when I want to clean the most. Or if I'm
Yeah.
really anxious about something, like I was cleaning my house all morning because I was nervous about coming on this podcast.
Oh,
So I
wait.
like to, I'm like, I like to just the act of cleaning because it's like you don't have to think about it. It's not like other things where you have to physically really think about what you're doing and able to get this like great result from it. You can almost just do it in autopilot. You could listen to a podcast while you're doing it, and then at the end you turn around and you're like, wow, look, this is stunning what I've done.
Right. Yeah, no, I think it's really important what you've just said in terms of the mental clutter and physical clutter, because whilst I think a lot of people talk about physical clutter and mental clutter, which I think that they should, one thing I think people don't talk about is how cluttered you can get with energy. So if you've got people who suck the energy out of you and you've got so many people giving you their opinions, then you're constantly cluttered with different energies. And sometimes just how we need to clean our physical space, we also need to clean our own energy with other people, with noise, with whatever, like even sometimes not listening to things while you're doing something, which is why I asked you about habit stacking. Is I believe so much in habit stacking, right? But sometimes not listening to a podcast when I'm walking is so great because I'm actually freeing my mind and I'm allowed to think about other things. It's when most of my ideas for this podcast come to me, is when I'm just walking and an idea pops into my head and I keep thinking about it and it comes into something. And so whilst people talk about physical and mental clutter, I think energy is so important, and decluttering yourself from the different energies that are stopping you in your life. Do you ever have that?
Well, most of the time I hate to be alone with my own thoughts. So I love to put like a book
Really?
on or
That's
something
so
like that.
interesting.
But no, I like, so you say that you get your ideas when you're walking.
Yes,
But I
always.
do, I'm always like in my shower. I always have,
Yeah.
that's when I come up
Yeah.
with like my idea for my video, or I'll just think of like a joke or something to say in my voiceover. And also like before I fall asleep. But that keeps me up at night. So I'm
Yeah.
like, maybe I need to stop listening to books while I'm cleaning so I can have my ideas while
Yeah.
I'm doing that. That's an interesting way to think of it, because I feel like I sometimes convince myself to do boring things by giving myself something to listen to,
I get that
watch while I'm doing it.
though.
But I do also think it is nice to have time alone with your own
Yes.
thoughts, to just sort through your own mental rather than constantly having
Yeah.
somebody else in your head.
With cleaning, I find it so boring. So I would need to put on a
Yeah.
podcast or a book. I don't think a creative idea would come to me if I was cleaning, if I'm completely honest. I'm just sitting there frustrated. But when I'm walking or if I'm exercising, I actually really do find sometimes not having headphones brings me lots of new ideas.
Yeah.
I also feel when I'm listening to a podcast, I always like to expand on what they're saying. So I also get ideas from that. But
Yeah.
having that clarity of walking without having any noise is really, really powerful for me. I want to talk a lot about millennials because your content is primarily for millennials. And I think we've become obsessed with productivity. So people who are probably watching or listening to this are thinking, okay, you've told me now I need to habit stack maybe. And now when I'm cleaning, I'm going to be listening to a podcast and that will make me more productive. And they're not taking that time to rest. How do you encourage people to kind of move away from this hyper productive generation?
I think just like changing our view on what constitutes productivity. Because I've said it before already, but I just feel like resting is so productive. And just finding time to do things that you enjoy is so productive. And like the story that you were saying about just taking time out to go and sharpen your saw, go and take time out to just sharpen like how you feel,
Yeah.
doing your self-care and things like that. I feel like helps you be more productive in the sense of like moving towards your goals or doing whatever it is you're trying to achieve or doing better at work. I feel like it's really, really hard to do that if you're not giving yourself the time to rest. And millennials are just so go, 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 go. I was so like it when I became a full-time content creator. So I'd gone from like doing my full-time job, doing content creation on the side. So that period of my life was really, really full on.
Yeah.
And then when I became a full-time content creator, it was like, okay, like you're now kind of living the life that you've started to carve out for yourself. But I was like, I can never do anything nice like during the Monday to Friday 9 to 5. Like you have to be waking up and you have to be doing the exact hours that you would be doing if you were still in your full-time job. And I just wouldn't allow myself any nice things. I would wake up and be like, you have to start making a video right now. Whereas I've kind of like come away from that now and I'm like, no, like you are allowed to go out for a walk in the middle of your day. Like you're allowed to do these things that are rewards for your other productive moments. So I just think like just really, really putting a lot of just making sure that you're always making time to reward yourself and to rest.
How do you do that for yourself?
I love to read. I just read a lot.
Really?
Yeah, I read a lot. Don't ask me what I'm reading. I don't want to talk about it.
Baby cat.
But yeah, I really, really love to read. Honestly, like I love a little doom scroll.
Really? Yeah, me too.
I love to get stuck in.
Yeah.
Before I know it, I'm watching like some guy like catching lobsters and he's explaining what these lobsters are. I watch the weirdest stuff. Yeah, I love to watch like content that makes me feel good though. I don't like to get stuck into content that doesn't make me feel good.
Right.
I think my algorithm, I've built it brick by brick, like I've trained it. It knows what to show me.
Really?
Yeah, quite well. It knows what to show me so I don't get sucked into anything that makes me feel bad.
Yeah.
But also like, yeah, things like going for walks, trying to make sure that I'm exercising. I haven't done that recently. It's really reminded me that I'm like lying through my teeth. I haven't been for a walk in ages. It was nice to walk here though, actually. Yeah, there's loads of things that I like to do to reward myself. Even like really small little rewards. If you don't have time to sit there and read a book, I'm going to make a cup of tea and literally just stand outside for a second.
Yeah, of
and
course.
just have a little quiet moment.
I actually want to challenge you a little bit because you started your profile in 2022, right?
Yeah.
You have amassed so many followers. And as somebody who has been playing the social media game for 4 years, it is so hard. I constantly feel that everything is changing, everything's moving, and you have to be working constantly. So how do you manage resting whilst also growing something at such a phenomenal pace?
I think personally for me, I have to take time away from social media to just not be on it. That's why I read books, because that's the only thing that fully gets me off it for a second, because otherwise I would never ever stop. I would never stop like replying to all my DMs, replying to all of my comments,
Yeah.
like going through and like getting inspiration and saving things. I have to read because honestly, like watching a TV series or a TV show just isn't enough. I will get on my phone
Yeah.
and I will start looking. But I do understand, especially when you're self-employed, you kind of feel like you need to constantly be working, because when you're self-employed, you basically get out what you put in.
Yeah, you
so
do.
I do understand. And to be honest, that is the reason that I wanted to go self-employed, is because I always liked working really, really hard. And I was finding that you don't necessarily get out what you put in if you're working really, really hard for somebody else. As much as I like absolutely adored my career before, I loved that when I made my own social media, if I wanted to work until 11 o'clock, like I would probably reap the rewards of that. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? I think it's a hard balance, but it's like what we're saying about sharpening the saw.
Yeah.
You need to come away from it and come back at it, I think, with a clear mind, because there's some weeks where I think like I'm going to make a video every single day this week, but half the time my videos do better if I like take the time to really, really think about it and plan out an idea. And if I take like a little bit more days and my output is a little bit lower, there's so much conflicting advice about social media. So many people are like, in order to succeed, you need to be grinding. You need to be like filming 3 videos a day,
Yeah.
every single day,
Be so consistent. Yeah.
constant output. Whereas I really, really like just think that quality over quantity is better. I think that's what's worked for me a little bit better. Like,
Really? Is that how you saw growth?
yeah, I think so. I still would say I was consistent in that I wouldn't go like a week without posting, but I wouldn't pressure myself to post every single day and post something that I would feel is like substandard or people would enjoy like a little bit less than my usual videos, just because I felt like I had to post.
Right.
I feel like if you don't feel like you've come up with a good post that people are going to really, really like, I think you're better off just taking an extra bit of time to like make your next post really, really good and something that you think is going to land and that people are going to really enjoy. And
Yeah.
like people they've got an endless supply of things that they could be looking at. Like
Yeah, it's true.
they're not gonna miss you.
Yeah, no,
Some
it's
people,
true.
yeah, some people maybe create a rod for their own back if everyone is always used to you posting 3 times a day and then one day you just like can't be asked or you really needed to rest and people are like, where is it? But I think, you know, we're not saving lives here. Like the world is going to continue to spin if you don't post, and you need to take that time to, you know, make sure that your next bit of content is really good and something that you felt really, really excited to make.
Yeah, no, I agree. What do you think is one thing that you wish everyone could unlearn around productivity?
Just that you have to have like something to show for it to have been productive. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's so many things that are productive that don't necessarily have this outcome that you can show, because you can be like, okay, it was productive that I cleaned my house and it looks clean. Okay, you've got the clean outcome, but you know, I think it could be productive to just sit on your sofa all day and just rest, and you don't necessarily have
Do you
something
think
to
that
show
is
for it.
productive though, to sit on your sofa all day and rest?
I only think it's productive if you have earned it, in that you've been working really, really hard, you've had a really,
Right.
really long week. I think if you were to sit on your sofa every single day and rest all day every single day,
Yeah.
that's probably not productive, especially if you're able and there's nothing that's to say that that's what you really, really need to be doing right now. But I do think it is definitely productive if you've been working really, really hard and you just need something to reward yourself for the fact that you have been working really hard.
Yeah, and if you find joy in that, you know, one thing that I absolutely love doing is watching TV. I love it. I could watch TV all day. The thing is I have a rule now where Monday to Thursday we cannot turn the TV on, because if I sit down to watch a series, this happened with me with Top Boy. Have you seen it?
Well, do you know what? I'm always reading books, but my
Oh,
boyfriend
it's
has
so
had it on in
good.
the background, so I'm kind of have half listened to it.
Started
Addictive.
it. I was addicted to watching it every single day. And I just made a rule. The TV cannot turn on now, Monday to Thursday, but I'm a very, I guess, all or nothing person like
Yeah.
that. I can't watch one episode and then go to bed. So I was then watching it till 10 o'clock at night, and then I wake up really early. So I was just exhausted
Yeah.
every single day. And we don't have a TV in our bedroom. So when you're in the lounge and then you're sitting there, then you have to clear up and then you have to go brush your teeth. I was getting to bed at 11:30 from
Yeah.
watching TV, and I just thought this is not productive. But now on the weekends, I just watch TV for like 3 hours and it's the dream.
Yeah.
I love it. I love staying at home.
I love doing that though. I'm like very much like I like to earn these things.
Yeah.
I love to tell myself like, okay, if you do this for this long, then you get to do this. And that
Right.
is how I feel like
How you work.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's just how I work. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna film for an hour. I'm gonna edit it. It's probably gonna take me this many hours. I'm gonna finish the voiceover. Great. Then I've well and truly earned this.
Yeah.
And I will do it like that. And I kind of make sure that I'm earning these
Interesting.
sort of moments in my life. But I
Yeah.
just I try to always make sure that I feel like I've just done enough work to get to that point. And then I just really, really enjoy it, knowing that I'm like, I was sweating my tits off earlier
And I
and now I get to
deserve
do this.
it. Yeah. I'm the kind of same as you. I like to earn the things that I do. So if I've planned to watch TV, I don't feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
I worry a little bit because there's people that are probably watching or listening to this thinking, so now do I have to earn every relaxing moment in my life?
No, you don't have to. I don't know. I find that motivating. But then there's been times where I've woken up in the morning and I've kind of gone on my phone just to have like a little look. And then before I know it, like 2 hours has passed and all I've been doing is just scrolling on my phone. I've obviously done nothing to earn that. But usually then I'll just be like, okay, well, that was like a little preemptive reward. I'm now going to go and be productive. And just because you
Right.
had a bad start to your day or whatever, or you had like a little bit of a slow morning, doesn't mean that you can't then like turn that day around and do something really, really productive with the
So
rest of your
true.
day. Or you had like a really like crappy Monday. You just got off on the wrong foot. Like you don't have to throw the whole week away then.
I really like that you said preemptive reward, because I always look at reward as something you get after. But let's say you've started your day and you've done something like watch TV, or you've binge watched your favorite series last night. You could say that was your preemptive reward, which is why today and tonight you're going to be working instead.
Yeah.
That's really actually very helpful for me, because if I do doom scroll sometimes, I do feel really guilty. But actually, I could just use it as a preemptive reward instead of a post reward, which is what I've always looked at it as.
I talk about that in my book.
Really?
Because like I feel like we always do it sometimes. Like you put an episode on, you were meant to only watch the one, and then you accidentally watch loads. Like that's
Yeah.
fine. Do you know what? That felt good to you in the moment. Like that was
Yeah.
great. There's no reason why after that you can't then come away for it and be like, do you know what? I had an absolute whale of a time doing that. I'm now going to go and just do something really productive that I've been putting off.
Yeah.
And just do it as a little preemptive reward for what you're going to do next.
I love that. I'm actually getting married this year. And one of the things, I've actually recorded a podcast on this around hen dos and weddings. Now, I personally never have wanted a big wedding, but I'm the eldest daughter of an Indian family, and my fiance is the eldest son of also an Indian family. And they both said to us, in your dreams, it's not happening. But we are organising our civil wedding, which is our English wedding, very intimate and what we want. And then they're organising the wedding and reception. But even though my parents and his parents are organising the majority of it, I still feel as if it's a second job.
Yeah.
I still feel that I now have another thing to do. What's your advice on helping people to manage that? Because there's also the hen do, which is, I mean, again, I'm not really organising that, my friends are, but I guess for them it probably feels like a second job.
Yeah, I've just come off the back of a summer where I was a maid of honor and a bridesmaid. So honestly, I felt like I had two second jobs, like trying to organize those hens, because
Right.
we really, really wanted to just make sure that the bride like felt like she had that one thing covered, because I do understand that when you're getting married, it is like it sounds intense.
Yeah.
And honestly, like fair play to you for doing it, but I feel like I just could not have a big wedding.
Yeah.
And honestly, this is something that I do talk about in my book, is like balancing in these bigger things in life that are like your hens, your birthdays, even like your holidays, all of these things that are happening that I feel like ultimately they're what life is all about, because life isn't really about cleaning, is it? It's about these like
Yeah.
things that are actually going to be like what you remember. I'm never going to remember how I cleaned my house one Wednesday, but I'm always going to remember my best
True.
friend's wedding. But yeah, I think just finding the time to balance it is not easy. And I will be honest, my friends will tell you that I am the least organized socially out of all of us.
Really?
I am definitely. So I've had to like just think of ways to try and like convince myself to get on top of these things. So I'm like, I have to start really, really early and just try and do like a little bit of planning,
Right.
like just starting honestly like months and months out, because otherwise I'll be like just Googling it on the week
Yeah.
of how to balance it all in. So it's all about like starting as early as you can. I also absolutely love to make on TikTok saved folders. I'm really, really unhinged with my folders. I have a folder for
I've never done
everything.
that. That's
Really?
genius.
So
I do it
when-
on Instagram, but not on
yeah,
TikTok.
I don't know why I prefer TikTok. It's so much easier to
Yeah.
search for
It
inspiration
is.
on
TikTok is way better than Instagram.
Yeah,
I lost it in India, and I was trying to search on Instagram for like best restaurant or this. I couldn't find anything.
Yeah, you can't search
Yeah.
Instagram. It just comes up with the weirdest
Yeah, it's
things. Whereas TikTok, they've nailed the search. I'll be more likely to like TikTok search it than I would be to Google it now.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
But yeah, I always have my saved folders. So I'll have like I've got like a hair folder, makeup, like house inspo. Now I've got like baby tips to come back to.
Wow,
I have so
nice.
many like different folders that
It's a
really, really
great
help me.
idea.
Yeah.
So, what do you think is one thing that millennials or anyone actually can start doing today to make themselves 1% better?
I think start really, really small, but maybe just pick one thing that you want to introduce into every single day that you think is gonna make your day better. So for me, like something that really, really helped me was obviously just wiping down my bathroom after every time I use it.
Yeah.
And that's just something that I just introduce every day. Takes me 2 seconds.
Mm.
And I just tied that to what I already do every day in front of my bathroom mirror, which is do my skincare. I will not leave the house without doing my skincare. Now I do my skincare and I wipe down my bathroom. Life is just so much better for me doing that.
That's
I
so
don't
true.
spend as much time deep cleaning my bathroom. And if someone pops over, it's pretty tidy, ready to go.
I think taking that moment for yourself is really important. I remember I went to Karma Ayurveda and they had this rose water and they said every day just spritz it on your face and take a second to breathe it in. And when she said that, I said, I don't have the time to do that every day. And she said, are you telling me you don't have 2 seconds to breathe when you spritz this on your face? And I do it every single day. And I remember her every single day because I take this deep breath in and I think, life is so sad if you can't even take 2 minutes to yourself. And I think this is why the self-care movement has increased so much, is because we all realize how those moments can really impact our day. And so I think this has been such an insightful conversation. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to read your new book.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.